Welcome to an Employment Plan Workforce One tutorial. Hello, my name is Michelle Mattern. I am a counselor in the Shakopee office. I work mostly with transition students, but also have some adults on my caseload. I cover 8 schools, mostly in southern Scott County. Today we are going to work on Suzette's initial employment plan. We will be working in the Workforce One sandbox for this presentation. We will work through each section that we discussed in today's training. Most of what goes on the employment plan comes from the assessment of ER needs that has already been completed. Throughout our training today, we have discussed the different parts of the employment plan. So let's look at Suzette's plan and determine the services and supports needed to move towards competitive integrated employment. In Workforce One, on the left-hand side, click on the word Plan and then Add New Plan. The first section of the employment plan is the employment goal. In Suzette's case, we have not fully determined her final job goal. Some things Suzette has expressed interest in doing are cafeteria worker, office worker, and animal bather. It is okay to not have the final goal narrowed down when writing the initial plan. This is often the case, especially with transition students. It is also okay to put a broad field. What is written in the job goal area would be reflected in your assessment of ER needs. Once a final job goal is determined, the plan can be amended, which we will discuss later in this video. The next section is titled Met Job Goal When. Since we are still exploring the final job goal for Suzette, an example for this section would be, a job goal and necessary supports are identified. If a job goal has already been identified, an example might be, I have been employed for at least 90 days, I am satisfied with my employment, and my employer is satisfied with my work. The next area is the ONET code. The ONET code that reflected Suzette's goal most closely was cook, institution, or cafeteria. If you are having a difficult time finding an exact match to a job, do the best that you can. Let's now move into services. Services include those things that will help Suzette to reach her employment goals. Services that are put on the initial plan are services that will be worked on now or in the near future. It is important to list the services clearly and not in VRS jargon. This is the individual's plan, so it is important that they understand the services that are being provided. VR counseling and guidance and information and referral automatically populate in Workforce One. For Suzette, since she is still in school and under 22, we need to include the necessary pre-ed services. On Suzette's plan, based on our findings from her VR assessment of needs, we would most likely put these initial services on her plan. Pre-ED's career exploration and counseling, IEP goal, increased self-advocacy, benefits counseling, obtain high school diploma, and explore level of support needs. There are other services that could be on the plan. We will stick with what is there for example purposes. I will walk through how to add a service in just a moment. As we add work-based learning to Suzette's plan, let's walk through the other areas that need to be selected. Service types and titles needs to be selected. I will pull up the desk aid to show how to reference different types and titles so they are correctly chosen. The type and title affects the ability to authorize and bill the correct budget. The service type for work-based learning on the types and titles would be pre-ED's work-based learning. I am only showing the desk aid today as an example. We will not be going through the desk aid in depth. That will be trained at a different time. If you have questions about the types and titles, please contact your FAWS. Next is services provided by. There is a drop-down menu. You would select staff staff a non-VRS agency, or non-VRS agency. For Suzette, I would select staff and non-VRS agency. Next is who will provide the service. This section is asking who is going to provide the service to Suzette. List any and all of the people providers that are involved with this specific service. So for Suzette's case, I would put VRS and ABC School. Remember, each service must identify a provider. TBD is not a provider, it cannot be put on the plan. Who pays? This area is who will be funding the service. For Suzette's case, it would be VRS and ABC School. We always want to look at comparable benefits and if they are available to support the service. Think of this as who else is helping to pay for a service. Comparable benefit feels the same as who pays, but comparable benefit selection is used for reporting purposes behind the scenes. For Suzette's plan, comparable benefit would be education, elementary or secondary school. If VRS is the only funder, there is no comparable benefit. Next is start date and end date. Start date is the date a service is expected to be initiated. For Suzette, we are using the start date as the first day of school. End dates are not required. However, they can be used if it is unclear if a service may need to be reevaluated or updated. For example, if a person was going to training as an assessment, you would want to put the end date to be the end of the semester so that the team could get back together to further discuss how things went and if the plan needs to be amended. You may be asking why I didn't add training or job placement to the initial plan. The reason is because the job goal is not clear at this time, so I am not ready to move forward with these services. Further counseling and guidance needs to be completed. I am also not sure of the support needs at this time. Without support needs known, who will provide the supports, and if funding is available for those supports, I would not put this service on the plan. When more information is determined, the plan will be amended accordingly. Services or benefits from other programs is the next section. This section is where you can list any other person or service that will help an individual reach their employment goal. Progress measures would be added in the next section. There are sample progress measures that can be used if they are individualized. Also, custom progress measures should be added. A couple of examples for Suzette would be, I have met my IEP goals of self-advocacy and will graduate from high school by 6/1 of 2021. Another example would be, competitive integrated employment support needs will be explored and identified prior to graduation. Responsibilities can also be added to the already populated list if necessary. One we added to Suzette's was, provide high school diploma or documentation of graduation. A plan is not active until the individual and/or their legal guardian or representative have signed and dated it. Once the plan is signed by the individual or legal guardian, then the counselor would sign and date the plan and save it into Workforce One. Now I'm going to show an example of how to amend a plan. An employment plan needs to be amended when a service needs to be added, a service provider changes, the goal date expires, or when a specific job goal is determined. There are system-driven changes that do not require a signature. This is usually when a type or title is incorrect. Most of the time, an amendment will need a signature. When completing an amendment, click on Copy. It will direct you to select an amendment reason. You can select more than one by clicking the Select Deselect button. Select the reasons you are amending the plan, and then type in the reason in the space given. Make the necessary changes on the plan. Once a service is completed, it can be removed from the plan when an amendment is done. The amended employment plan will need a signature first from the individual and/or their legal guardian, and then from the counselor prior to it being saved in Workforce One. Thank you for listening to the tutorial today. If you have further questions about employment plans, please consult with your RAM. Thank you.